Hey everyone, the Wagon Wheel of Wisdom here. Please like, share, and subscribe, and hit the bell notifications down below if you haven't already. Hey folks, Kevin here, and welcome back to another episode of the Wagon Wheel of Wisdom. Behind me as usual, the beautiful wagon wheel, and hopefully a little wisdom up here. This morning I wanted to read to you something I had written in my journal last night, and I don't know if it was it's just trusting this process in its entirety and surrendering to it, but at the same time, the other half of me just kind of in that mode of wondering what's going on at all times. So here we go. There's the ultimate dichotomy with this journey. Waiting for someone to show up. I realize waiting is probably the wrong word, but this is just what I wrote last night. Waiting for someone to show up, trusting this process that they will show up. Always accepting they are with you and never truly knowing any of this. It's always the focus should be on me, while I'm always thinking of her, when she is me. Surrender to union? How? What am I missing? What am I not doing? What else could I be doing? The strongest emotion is love. It stands above all others. The spot in my bed is where a woman used to lay next to me, and this spot is now vacant. That's why it is so hard to trust this process fully. She used to be an arm's reach away. Now the distance feels much further. There is no separation, they say. I don't need this woman next to me. However, I feel split in half without her. Why am I being denied this companionship? Yes, I know. I will find out. However, it just seems our 5D souls came here to learn, but in the process, crush our 3D hearts. So this is they talk about looping and they talk about surrendering to the moment, but at the same time, there is this logical aspect of me that probably like anybody that is going on this journey is just absolutely in this confusing state sometimes of just trusting this process. And I obviously wonder, what more could I be doing? What am I not doing? Am I hindering my growth? Am I stalling it, or am I growing at a nice rate that will be very beneficial in the end? It's just, these are all questions that run through my mind while I embark on this journey, or while we embark on this journey. And I get similar comments that sort of hit on this area from time to time. And you hear more and more people sit there and say, I'm done with this, I'm going to throw in the towel, and I've been very guilty of that as well. But at the same time, there are these beautiful revelations along this journey. After you go through a struggle, you come out of it, you're feeling a little lighter, a little better, but the lulls in between and that void that they talk about are what spins up these emotions and these questions that I have inside of me. It's seriously one of the most powerless situations at times that I can say I've ever been through. And when you're sitting in those moments, or when I'm sitting in those moments, I lean back and forth between, am I just being needy and lonely at this moment in time? Is that what it is? Because I haven't laid on the other side of my queen size bed since she's been gone. That spot remains empty. I set my books there. I set my journal there. I have not even ventured over to that side, and it's a queen size bed. And last night I was just looking over at that side, and that's what had me write these things down in my journal. But again, I don't know if that's what they call push energy or anything like that. But I'm not thinking of her in a negative mindset. I'm not trying to rationalize anything. It is just questions about the path that I'm going on, and just how hard at times it really is. And I would imagine among the confusion that all of you have probably felt that in some capacity. So I wanted to read that this morning just to convey to all of you that I'm human too as we go on this. I'm also 5D at the same time, and I can't deny the incredible synchronicities that pop up. And I'll give you just a hell of an example yesterday, just to kind of test myself. I limped my ass down to the hardware store, and as you remember, I messed my quad up. But I'm mobile now, which is nice. I can get around, but there's pain. I get to the hardware store because I needed a drill kit to to do a little work here, and I walk into the store, and this dog runs up to the mailwoman, and right behind the counter, the guy goes, "Hey, everybody," says the name of my person. And that's the name of the mail carrier, and it's just like, are you freaking kidding me right now? So at every single moment, as much as I'm trying not to think of her, there's just these things that pop up, and it's just, it's amazing the coincidences at times, and it really does throw me, and it's so damn hard to not be frustrated with this process at the same time. So I try to be more, as you see, I smile about it a little bit. I try to make it funny, but at the same time, I'm not gonna lie, like it spins up those emotions, and it makes it challenging. And that's why last night I wrote those things in my journal, just these questions that I ponder, and the ability to just fully surrender and just trust that this has some higher purpose, while at the same time completely missing someone. And people have commented that fades over time, and granted, it has. The gaps in between, like I've said, the negative thinking or the missing, or they've grown, and they have. And it's I can only attribute it to putting in the work, to meditating and things like that. But at the same time, I'm over 5 months in this now, and it's very challenging. It's very challenging. And one of the biggest kind of the mind fucks, I'll call it, is it feels like we broke up years ago now. That's the biggest and weirdest thing. However, the pain seems at times as fresh as it did the day it happened. So it without question, and for those of you that are maybe newer, that are joining up on this channel, it is seriously one of the most bizarre journeys you'll go on. And I believe, and much to the point of what I wrote down, it is to show you that you don't need to be, quote unquote, in control of your life. Surrender to the flow of it and just accept it as it comes at you. And eventually this person might show back up, or our higher beings have something else in mind, which I would also like to talk about, and that is maybe a soulmate coming in your direction. And last night I was on a live stream of another individual that does some work in this, who has reached union, and one person on there had talked about being with a soulmate, but finding the relationship to be abusive in some way, and said that she was waiting around now 22 years for her twin. So and I had said, well, maybe that's a sign from your higher self that you shouldn't be in this relationship with a soulmate. Obviously, if it's abusive, I wouldn't imagine you'd want to be in it at all. So why stay in it? And perhaps, that might be the reason you're still pushing your twin away, is because you're still stuck in this mindset that I need to be with somebody. And so I guess I'm gonna go down a path here that I've got no idea what the hell I'm talking about, because I have no desire at this moment in time to date, but at the same time, I do have this undeniable desire to surrender to anything that comes in my path, and that could be a soulmate. So I'm again stuck in this dichotomy of which direction to kind of go. If there is a plan in action here, and if we are of this belief system that we're on this journey, there certainly is, beyond our control. And let's hypothetically say a soulmate did show up on my path. I, in that moment, would have to put away or put down all of my fears, all of my reservations, and to be completely transparent, I have less than zero desire right now to date anybody. My focus is on me, on my healing, because I'm still of the mindset, and granted, this could be coming from ego too. I'm of the mindset, why bring broken Kevin into the mix with somebody else? But at the same time, and this was even per the individual that was running the live stream last night, that there are still lessons to be learned with soulmates as well. And that kind of threw me back for a second. It's like, yeah, that's very true. There are lessons to be learned. So it really kind of changed my mind in that moment of me just under the illusion, or me convincing myself I should say that, I don't need to be with anybody right now. Maybe there's a different plan in place with that. And so I shouldn't be so resistant to the fact that, if somebody does show up on my path, to perhaps embrace that for the time being. But again, I don't know what's on the path ahead of me right now. And that's sort of what I'm getting at. So I guess if you were to entertain that idea of a soulmate, make sure that it isn't coming from a place of just being needy and being lonely. I do truly believe that would be counterproductive in a lot of ways, because if that's the case, you're entering into it with a bit of an ego, I suppose. I would find that to be counterproductive. We desire companionship. I think we would all agree, for the most part, right? Because we are, in some capacity, hoping that this beautiful, harmonious union comes together with our twin. And we're on this process of healing to getting to this point or place where that could seemingly be a possibility. So I guess, full disclosure, as much as I say that I don't want to be with anybody, if I'm to be honest about this whole situation, I would have to be open to the possibility. I really would be. There's no way that I could deny that, because then in fact I would be denying exactly what has been written in the stars that could be on my path. Am I going to seek it out? No, I'm not going to seek it out. I am just going to do my best, again, to surrender to the moment, and maybe much like the questions that I had in my journal, just absolutely be okay with someone or something that does come on my path. Because if we could go back in time, and you know how you know when that twin showed up because there was just this energy about it, I'm going to venture a guess that if a soulmate were to show up, you would know that as well. You would feel something vastly different about it. And don't resist the connection from the mindset of what I was approaching it with. And that is, well, I'm not ready, I'm not ready, I'm not ready. Entertain it. Feel it out. This I bet is a ultimate test of using your own discernment and your own judgment in that moment to, maybe just see where you're at. And there is no right or wrong with that, I don't think. If you're, I would genuinely look at it as being counterproductive to seek out somebody, like dating websites and stuff like that, and guilty as charged for being on those. But, I look at it like online shopping for human beings, and it's just, I don't know. I'm such a traditional romantic that I truly believe in the organic way of meeting somebody, that when you cross their path, that's how sparks fly. Looking at somebody's photo and some bullshit description of who they are, which is probably the total freaking opposite of who they are. No, trying to weed through that, I don't know. That to me sounds just like a recipe for disaster. But again, I've got no manual on this. This is a learn as I go process, just like it is for all of you. And I think that for me has been hands down the biggest challenge in all of this, is just surrendering to that and knowing that you have no control over any of this, that you have a little control over your decision making, but who gets put on your path, you have no control over. I had no control over it when I met my person. They just kind of showed up out of the blue, and for some damn reason in that moment, and I've said this in other videos, when I first saw her, the first words out of my mouth to myself were, holy shit, I am in trouble. So you just know when you know, is what I'm getting at. So don't be resistant to the idea of a soulmate showing up. Don't sit there and look at every person as they walk by. Is that them? Is that them? They'll be dropped on your path. I'm willing to bet when you least expect it. And I think that's kind of the whole point. You can't force these things. That's the one thing that I'm really learning about this whole surrender aspect. There is no forcing any of this at all. The things that show up, not a moment late either. They show up when it's needed. And the more that I've found that I've tried to control or manipulate situations, the bigger it's backfired and blown up in my face. Now, some have argued that it was supposed to go like that, and perhaps it is to just teach you that lesson in that moment that, surrender to us. We've got a better plan in play for you than the one you might think you do. So that's been the biggest challenge of this process for me, to be perfectly honest with you, is just surrendering to that. But I'm human just like all of you, and that's why I write these questions down at night. It's a confusing ass journey a lot of the time. Like I said, the distance feels so great in between somebody that I have no contact with right now, and I'm always wondering how this is going to play out. But if I would just learn to shut my mind off and just accept that it is playing out in exactly the fashion that it has to, I think it would ease up the process some. So that's what I got. I'm understanding that one was kind of all over the map, but then again, a lot of the time my mind is all over the map with this. So I always told you I would be completely real and transparent and honest with you guys about this whole situation. This is my diary of sorts, the verbal diary, my verbal journal, and I'm glad that it resonates with some of you. So it's been a pleasure. I am actually in the process of creating a meditation. And the meditation itself is going to be a little bit different than I think anything I've come across. It's in those moments when I've responded, when I'm tense and things like that, to help ease that tension. So the response comes from a much more grounded area of where I'm calm and relaxed versus kind of tensed up when these moments come along or when these triggers come along. So I'm in the process of creating that. It should be interesting to see kind of the response to it, because you tense up different muscle groups in your body, and then you breathe it out. So I'm hoping that it has a very positive response, and I've found some value in meditations like that too. So hope all you guys are doing well, and I hope you have a beautiful Thursday.